So basically this morning we just want to give you a bit of news and a bit of an overview of our new filtering platform. It's just a bit of an introduction, so kind of why we're looking at, well, we've looked at a new platform, what that platform looks like, a bit of a technical overview, just high level, with some of the features and benefits, and then what we kind of expect from the migration, so that we can go through the migration plans with you as well. Okay, so first of all, kind of why. So main reasons for why we've decided to move to a new platform, mainly around new web technologies. So kind of nowadays, a lot of web technologies are going down the secure browsing route, and what we're finding is that with a lot of those sites now, you're wanting to have a lot of decryption around that, mainly around the prevent strategy, and things like Google, where you actually wanted to go in and decrypt and find out exactly what users are doing, even on HTTPS sites. Lightspeed at the moment does handle it, but it's not in a very scalable way. So we've got a slightly different kind of design we want to kind of put forward there. And we've also been having some kind of problems with inline solutions as well. So kind of you have that problem with secure browsing in an inline solution anyway, but also around kind of the higher bandwidths, a lot of high bandwidth utilization, and also around resilience. So if you've ever seen me do presentations around the country, kind of show you kind of how the resilience works with Lightspeed. We've got kind of 3 boxes per cluster. We've got lots of different clusters, but you've kind of got to be moved from one to another from a resiliency point of view. So it's a little bit not the best kind of design there. So we're looking at a better resilience option. Some schools have also had some issues around internal IP range conflicts. So that's kind of, it's been a difficulty kind of transitioning from an old supplier to ourselves, and something that people weren't quite aware of. So we want to get rid of that headache, and also from a MAT delegated management side of things, we're getting a lot of schools now, which obviously are growing into multi-academy trusts, and from that, they're wanting to have a single pane of glass. At the moment, you're having to go into each individual school's filtering platform and make changes to each one, whereas multi-academy trusts now and our partners are there going, can we actually have it all in one pane of glass? So we have listened and kind of had a look at what we're doing, and over the past 18 months, we've now come up with a new platform. It uses a totally different vendor, so we're not using kind of Lightspeed. It's using the NetSweeper vendor. It's still a leading global filtering provider, and in the UK alone, kind of about 3 million users protected just in the UK. You kind of will have heard, you may have heard of NetSweeper going around the kind of with the local authorities, and the reasons for that is because of the scalability. Now, what you'll find with how we're going to be putting it through to schools is you're still going to have all of the control that you're used to. So you're still going to be able to go in, make your changes, and look after and manage your filtering. It's also this filtering platform is still cloud-based, so we're not going to be going back to boxes on site. It's also still going to be cloud-based, but from our point of view, it makes things more resilient and more scalable because we can run it on a virtualized platform. So nearly everything is virtualized, and from that point of view, we can, if anything starts to get a little bit busy, a little bit warm, we can actually turn on new servers within the server farm very, very quickly. So from a scalability point of view, it's very, very, very scalable. And I'll go into kind of a little bit more about how that's scalable later on. And also, it's designed to be exceptionally fault tolerant. So at the moment, with the way kind of the failover from rocket to rocket, it's not the cleanest of failovers. The way that this has been designed with lots of very expensive load balancers is pretty much, we can lose over half of the whole infrastructure, and we would still be fine and still run within the capacity of everyone here. So it's been designed to be exceptionally fault tolerant, and again tested significantly. So how does it work? Well, I've kind of already mentioned about the load balancing. So we have fully load balanced traffic and policy servers, and within there, so it's designed to withstand multiple failures. It's not an inline solution. So this is where we're kind of trying to get out of the limitations that we have with having to buy set vendor hardware. So by not having to buy a vendor's piece of equipment, so box A, box B, or box C, we can actually make we can make our own design and make it work for our customers and for yourselves in a much better way. So we have a 40 gigabit per second backplane throughput. Kind of to put that into perspective, our busiest days normally get to about 15 gig of throughput. So 40 gig on the backplane, and that's just in between servers on the actual virtual platform. That's pretty good. And we've designed the platform, I think we've got about 8-10 gig ports. So again, we're looking at throughput and capacity for years to come, not just for today. And because it's all on that virtual platform, we don't need to have these other hardware clusters that you have at the moment. So if you do join a multi-academy trust or you take over another school, then we can put you into the same firewall, and we can, without having to move all of your filtering as well. It's all on that same platform, so you're not having to play around with changing settings too much. As I already said, you're still going to have all of the web filtering admin. You're not going to lose anything there, and you're still going to have that can be delegated down into each school mapped, and also partners that assist with you as well. And one of the big things is around the secure traffic inspection. So we're going to be turning that on by default. So unlike due to some limitations in the Lightspeed platform at the moment, we do inspection by default. We don't do decryption. We will be turning on the whole inspection and decryption by default. So there's a few bits of work that we need to do, and we'll be giving those details to you towards the end. And that's mainly around that prevent compliance. And because of that, we are now looking at a proxy-based approach. Now, one of the things that we can do, and I get asked this question quite a lot, is it's great turning on decryption by default, but how about bringing your own device networks? Well, we can turn the decryption off for certain networks, so don't worry too much. So you don't have to have that certificate sent out to everything if you don't need to, or if you don't want to. And obviously, with secure sites being the future, you probably will want to, at least for the foreseeable future. So we're going to go through some of the additional benefits and features that you'll be getting. You're going to get everything that you normally have today, but with a few extra bits. So some of the reasons why we chose NetSweeper as our platform of choice. One of the core parts around it was around it's called the CNS, or Category Name Service. So this is NetSweeper's own artificial intelligence. Sits over in Canada, very big bits of kit, big server farms over there. And what happens is every URL that is currently categorized is obviously on all the NetSweeper boxes across the world, and you have the database there. What happens if a new URL is found? Well, what happens if someone in your school goes to a new URL, it goes into like a holding pen, and at that point it gets sent up to NetSweeper's artificial intelligence. Most of the vendors at this point, you'd have that. It's not a holding pen, it's just an unknown website. So the URL goes up to the AI, is inspected, and within 10 seconds, roughly 10 seconds, depending on everything that's there, you'll get a category that's automatically applied to that URL and is sent back down to the box. And the user will be allowed or denied access depending on what category decision has been taken. Now that's really useful because it also does an auto refresh. So it shows that the URL is a new URL, holds it there for about 10 seconds, and so every 10 seconds from there there's an auto refresh, so that if it's allowed, it's allowed, and if it's blocked, it will show actually no, this is actually blocked. One of the other nice things that you get within the artificial intelligence is it can also detect malware, phishing, and viruses as well, and give each website a secondary category. So these categories, they might not have, each URL might not have one category assigned, they might have various categories. So it could also have a malware, phishing, and virus category assigned, and therefore you can be protected at the web filter layer before you even start looking at the firewalling aspect. It also understands 28 different languages, some of which I'll show you in a slide in a second, and NetSweeper will continue to update these languages as more languages become popular. So they have, so these 28, anything over 5% of new URL requests in a new language in a set period of time, it's about a week, then NetSweeper will start to, they'll actually bring linguistic experts in-house to look at embedding those languages into the algorithms that they have for their current analysis platform. So again, really useful stuff. They also show all of the live stats for this artificial intelligence as well. So you can go to the NetSweeper website /live-stats, and you'll get some of the examples like I'm showing you here. So this is from Tuesday, before we did all of these sessions. So you can see these are just new URLs. So they're not all the URLs categorized in the box. That's billions, millions and millions. But this is just categorized in that 24-hour period. So you can see 614,000 adult pages. And then when we start looking at prevent and kind of education specific, you're looking at criminal skills, extreme hate speech. So that's, looking at that, almost 1,000 URLs just categorized in 24 hours, just around that area there. And then just showing you the different languages. So these are the top 8 languages that are being analysed as we speak. And if you go on the live stats page, you'll be able to see the whole list of the 28 on there, and kind of you see it's quite interesting seeing how many pages and how many different languages people are using, because obviously this will only be analysed if a user tries to access one of those sites. So it's a really insightful tool there. So one of the benefits that you will get, benefits features, is this shared list concept. So currently, on your current web filter, you have to go into each school, into each school, each multi-academy trust, and configure policies within each school. So you're logging in, logging out, logging in, logging out. It's a bit time-consuming, a bit cumbersome, especially if they're on different clusters. It can be quite a bit of a pain. So there's this feature called shared lists, So it allows you to apply settings across multiple schools, multiple maps even, or even from us, if there's a safeguarding issue, we can enforce it at the top, very top layer. We don't do very much enforcing from the top layers, as you'll be aware. So we're an ISP, so we give you the control to be able to do that yourself. Now these shared lists, they allow you to allow and deny specific sites. They allow you to implement certain search keyword terms, even packet manipulation, so you can actually find and replace certain things within a URL, and that can all be done within the shared list environment. So it's quite useful. I kind of see that being a very big benefit to a lot of schools, especially multi-academy trusts. And then kind of on the back of that, we start to look at the search keywords. So as you'll be aware, we don't block search keywords by default across our infrastructure. And the reasons for that, there's many. Each school is very different. We deal with nursery schools all the way through up to sixth form colleges, boarding houses. We've got different faith schools all over the country. So we can't really have a one list fits all block policy. And we do have lists available that schools can use, but we can't do that to everyone. Now with NetSweeper, you kind of get the best of both worlds. So you have that list, you have it set this master keyword list, and it's centrally updated by ourselves and NetSweeper. So NetSweeper have a team of people that actually have these words as well. And that does this word each have a category. So each term has a specific category associated to it, or multiple categories. And if you, within the web filter policies, block the category, for example, pornography, then you will automatically block all the pornographic searched query terms as well. Okay, so it's quite a nice way of dealing with it. Similarly, we had an example, say with the bomb. You might be looking at that from a history and war point of view, but obviously there's also some instances where you won't want to be searching for that term, and you can have those particular categories blocked or allowed, and that will allow or block those specific search terms. You can then also have a shared keyword list. So this kind of bolts onto the back of the shared lists earlier, and you can decide on a set of words, keywords, phrases that again you can allow or deny, and you can roll it out to a whole multi-academy trust. A partner can roll it out to all of their schools, and you can also roll it out to all of your policies within a school as well. So it's kind of a set it once, and it configures it for everyone. So again, it's quite useful from that perspective. Kind of another additional feature here is the reporting. So from a reporting perspective, you get a much better, a much more extensive and customizable reporting engine. Where you have, if you've ever looked in the Lightspeed reports as they are today, you'll have the reports gallery, and you run your report. It starts to slow down a little bit. We're aware of that, and you kind of have you're limited to the information in that one report gallery view. With NetSweeper, you don't have that limitation, so you can bring in information from any part of the logging database and create your own report from that. And I'll show you an example in a second. But it means that you can create pie charts. You can then create a drill down within the same report. You can then show some detail and show the actual URLs within the same report. Create pivot tables. You name it, you can do it with the reporting engine. But we also kind of understand that that's probably not going to be suitable for all schools. So whilst a lot of schools might like that flexibility, it can be quite complicated to create a report if you've never created reports before. So we also have some really simple on-demand reports. So we're going to be creating a list. There's a list of 45 reports already, but we're going to be creating some more, kind of to mimic some of the reports that you get within Lightspeed. So you're familiar with those, and all it asks for is very basic information. So you go onto the system and say, I want a full user history report, and it will say, okay, so give me the start date, what you want me to look at, the end date, and give me the username, and hit create, and it will give you that report. So it's quite user-friendly if you want to just have the simple on-demand reports. One of the other parts that you'll get is access to the logs for a much greater period of time. So you'll have access to them for at least 12 months live. We're actually looking at extending that to 24 months. So you should be able to get reports and logs from way back, much greater than you have today. And then after that, we'll be able to archive all of those logs off as well. So if you do need to have any if you need some historical data, then we'll be able to get that for you. So you have your reports, but you also have alerts. So an alert is pretty much one of those reports, but sent to a specific person. And you can create these as and how you want. But by default, we're going to create a prevent alert. We call it prevent alert. And within the prevent alert, we're going to give, as you migrate over, we're going to ask for the safeguarding details of a member of staff at each school. And that member of staff will get this prevent alert whenever activity has been generated. So this will have any attempts of access to extreme hate speech, criminal skills and weapons categories. You can tailor that as well, but that's kind of as it comes out of the box. So again, hoping to give that to all of the schools, that should be of great benefit to you all. The alert can run between every 10 minutes all the way up to every month. If there's no data, then you don't get an email, you don't get the alert. So don't worry if you think, oh, every 10 minutes I'm going to get an email. That's not the case unless you have a big problem at a particular school, and then you might be getting frequent alerts. And it enables you to be able to demonstrate to Ofsted, look, we are trying to meet the Prevent and UK Safer Internet appropriate monitoring guidelines. And you can show, these are the types of reports that we are getting daily, and we are trying to follow those guidelines as best as we can. You can also create as many alerts as you want. If you want to have a particular user, and you want to use a particular user whenever they try and go to a particular category, again, you can have that type of alert come through. So it's totally customizable, and it's very, very, very flexible. One of the things that I do quickly mention here is from a support perspective, you're also able to see what's called assume identity. So if you have a user that's having a problem accessing a site, you can also assume that the identity of that user without having to log into a machine. So you can sit at your desk and assume the identity of Joe Blogs, and you can browse the internet as Joe Blogs without having to log in and change any settings. So you can actually see exactly what they'd be seeing as they log in. So, quick example of one of those of that prevent report. Ignore the numbers. There's a lot of attempts. It's just some dummy data. But this is all one report. Okay, so it's about, this one ended up being about 10 pages long, just because of the amount of data. But the top, this is what you get at the very top. So all of the alerts in the past hour was this particular report. It shows you all the users and how many attempts per user. It then breaks it down within that same report to say, okay, we've got those particular users, let's take that user and let's actually look at what they were trying to look at. So we then break it down into the request per prevent category, and then break that down further per category to show these were actually what they were trying to access or attempt to access within that particular category. So again, from a safeguarding perspective, that's brilliant.
Can I just take you back to the question that we've just had?
Yeah.
To do with the assumed identity. The question is just, I think it's clarification, does it log as Joe blogs or as the user assuming their identity?
It would be the user assuming their identity. So it wouldn't show that if Joe blogs were, if you were trying to test Joe blogs and it was you logging in, it doesn't log as Joe blogs trying to access it, because it's you that's actually trying to access it. Okay, so that's kind of your reports. Hopefully that's kind of very useful reporting part there. And I'm going to kind of show you the migration plan and how we're going to move you over. So we've had schools on the system since July 2017. The platform is officially launched after extensive testing, and kind of for all customers. We're looking at scheduling migrations over the next 12 months. If you work with partners, then we'll be working in conjunction with your partner to actually get that migration in place, and they'll be having a lot of kind of prerequisite training around that. You'll also get some training and some documentation as part of that migration process too. So kind of the first step is today is kind of step 0.5. It's just kind of giving you a bit of an overview of what we're looking at and the NetSuite platform. You're going to then get some further information. So further information about the NetSuite platform and kind of a bit more of an introduction to, with a lot more of the feature set. So this is just highlighting some of the main points today. And then from January 2018, so just after Christmas, not long now, we'll be looking at giving you the proposed month of migration. So you're not going to get a shock come 1st of January, oh, by the way, we want to migrate you tomorrow. We want to give you the proposed month in as much time as we can. So it gives you time to prepare and enable a seamless transition. As part of that first contact, we will be asking for a technical contact and a desired date within that proposed month that you'd like to migrate. That's basically so that we know who we're contacting on the day. The desired date we might be able to bring forwards if you want to do it sooner. Obviously, just be aware, school holidays are usually the busiest period for us because everyone wants things doing in the school holidays. But we're quite adept to working within school periods as well. So don't worry too much. From a migration point of view, about 1 month before that desired date, we will be starting the migration task. So as part of that, we will ask for the technical requirements form, which you'll have all filled in when you first became a customer. We'll be asking for that type of information again, just to refresh our data. What happens in schools, it changes all the time, so it's just nice to get another view of what you have. We'll also be sending some best practice information and frequently asked questions document, so you can have best practice if you've got Chromebooks, for instance, the best type of practice to use. Just giving you some of the experience that we've had with this platform and all the various different parts. And then as part of you also have some onboarding documentation, and within that onboarding documentation, that gives you the bit of pre-work that's required. It's not a lot of work that needs to be required, but we will go through that as well. And then from a reminder, kind of going on from there, you'll also have some reminder emails as well. So going up from about 2 weeks before, you'll start to have reminder emails, just confirming the appointment, confirming the date, the engineer who will be looking after that as well, and then also just to double check that you have done the work that we've asked you to do, because the last thing we want to do is to get to the migration date and there's work not been done, and it starts to just get a little bit of a panic. So we're just making sure that we're all okay. And also you'll get training videos as well. So prior to actually going live, you'll have a little bit of a flavour of how to do things, rather than getting the system and then having to learn once it's in. You'll have those training videos and be able to have a look at those beforehand. So we've had a question, will there be any internet downtime during the migration? There will be, and that's down to the change of proxy settings. So because it's proxy based, it's the period of time between in essence you can use it all the way throughout if you wanted to have an unfiltered connection temporarily. It's not what I'd recommend, but you'll be able to move things. You'll be able to move that across from a pop-back proxy point of view. And as much as a question about will all of our data, such as Broadband sites and etc., be transferred to NetSweeper? As much as is possible, yes. So we will try and move as much as we can. There are certain things where on the date of the installation, we will look at that, and we'll be seeing quite a few schools that have certain rules in place, and we'll be asking them, do you still need this? So yeah, as far as possible, we'll move things across. And yes, you'll still be able to filter mobile devices outside of school. So that's another question we've just had. So yes, there's various different ways of doing that. They're explained in the best practice and frequently asked questions document. And will client computers require proxy details from So we've had a question about the proxy details. There's various different ways of deploying proxy details. We have, again, a very extensive document on config. You can obviously configure them manually, not ideal, but so we've got the documentation to show how to use the auto configuration facilities within DNS and DHCP, how to create some profiles. So if you've got Android, any iOS devices, how to create the mobile how to create the profile packages, and also you see your group policy if you've got anything that's on a domain. So there's various different ways of doing it. You don't have to do them manually, but you will need some settings there somewhere. Most of the time you can do that automatically though, so don't panic too much. We've got quite a big document that you can have a look at that we'll send out through, which goes through all various different bits. So what do you need to do? So in that onboarding document, so from an onboarding document, there's some work that will need to be completed. First of all, new Active Directory groups. So we don't want to use your existing ones. We prefer to use a new set of AD groups. So we ask you to create those. We ask you to create an IIS server instance if you don't have that already. Most secondary schools do. Most primary schools just will have an Active Directory, an AD controller. So it can be turned on pretty easily. It does need to have ASP.NET and authentication services, specifically NTLM turned on. they're two checkboxes that don't get checked by default, so just be aware of that. We've got the documentation to show how that works though. And then from a certificate point of view as well. So to get that certificate point of view, we need that certificate in for the decryption. So all of those three you can do from now over the next 12 months. We're not going to be turning it over the next 12 months. So that work can all be done over that period. So we'll close off there. If we have missed anyone, I'll put it on the list. I don't think we have though. But if you've got any more questions, please feel free to get in touch with us. I'm hoping that this was useful for you all, just as a very high level of what's to come. Hopefully, it's going to be much better experience for you, and you won't experience some of the problems that you've had on the current platform.